Okay, I backed off my tension knob. If it falls like this and it runs over, that's what we don't want, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So we're going to tighten up our tension knob and practice our rate of fall once we clean this up. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? AJ Gore here, and I've got a new bait casting reel from KastKing, the Spartacus II Baitcaster. And I gotta tell you, this is a fun, great little reel, super affordable. And in this video, I'm gonna break it down in the description. I'm gonna tie on 3 different lures, show you a quick setup for each one of those different lures, and help your fishing experience just that much more on the new Spartacus II. The Spartacus II is an awesome reel for under 50 bucks. It is packed full of all kinds of different details that is actually very surprising, especially in a reel within this price range. So one of the key features of this reel is the fact that it is a super small, super low profile reel. In fact, it's about 10% smaller than the original Spartacus series of reels, and it's measuring out to about 39 millimeters. Like I said, 10% smaller and fits very comfortably in your hand. Now, what makes it even better is such a small reel and such a low cost package is also coming in at only 6 ounces. So let's talk about 2 key features on this reel that are really awesome, and that's going to be your braking system as well as your line control coming out of that line chute. So first, on the braking system, we have a powerful 5-button magnetic braking system with a single outside adjustment. Don't worry, those little 5 magnets on the inside, they're beasts, they're powerful, and all you need is that single adjustment on the outside. Next, you have what we call a double tapered control line chute. So basically you have a big funnel on the inside that's going to, as that line's coming off of your spool, it's going to taper down and funnel down into that chute. But as it's shooting back out, it actually changes, almost like an hourglass, kind of an hourglass shape, and it lets it feed out the other side. Pretty cool engineering for that much better line control and less backlash. So another really cool feature on this Spartacus II is the fact that it has a double supported pinion bearing, and that's going to give you an increase of about 35% as far as smoothness goes. But with that double supported pinion bearing, it's also going to give you an increase in durability in upwards of 30%. So not only do you see a 35% increase in smoothness over previous versions, now you've got an increase of durability by up to 30%. That's a pretty decent package in the updated model of the Spartacus II. It also has one more feature that I believe the crowd is going to love, and that's the fact that it doesn't just come in black and red. It comes in 4 different colors to choose from. So that means you're going to be able to pick up a reel that you love and get it in 4 different colors. So if you want to color code it like we've seen in some of your previous models, or if you just like the different color options for different rod applications, say you've got this brand rod that's this color, you can match it with that color reel, so on and so forth. And the Spartacus II gives you that many options to choose from when it comes to color. All right, so let's go ahead and tie on a bait. I'm going to go with the lipless crankbait, which is one of my favorite search baits of all time. And this is such a great bait no matter what body of water you're fishing. If you're actually trying to locate fish, this is a bait that you're more than likely going to want to pick up and throw a lot. So what better bait to show you on one of your first adjustments with the Spartacus II. For the record, I'm running a 12-pound fluorocarbon line, so I'm going to clip it off right now. Go ahead and tie on that lipless crankbait and go over our first adjustment. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is adjust our rate of fall, and that's adjusted in your tension knob. Okay, that's also getting us set up for your cast, or the beginning of the cast, is how much tension you have on the spool when you're first casting. A good way to set up by lure weight and line weight is your rate of fall, like I'm going to show you right now. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to see right here, you click the button, see how my lure's not falling. So now we're going to go on ahead and back off our tension knob till it falls. See how I didn't get a run over? That's what we're looking for. Okay, I backed off my tension knob. If it falls like this and it runs over, that's what we don't want, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So we're going to tighten up our tension knob and practice our rate of fall once we clean this up. Okay, so we just saw we had an overrun. Let's go ahead and tighten up our tension knob a little bit. See how it's tight and doesn't want to fall? Let's go ahead and slowly back it off till we get that nice slower fall. Not bad. Yep. Okay. All right, so we've got our rate of fall adjusted where it's pretty good. It's slowly coming down. You can go faster, and you can get that for a longer cast with a faster rate of fall, but let that happen in increments and as you can learn to control your spool better with your thumb. So right now we've got a nice slower rate of fall. Let's go ahead and advance our brakes to a heavier braking so we won't backlash on the decel. So right now my brakes are down around a 2 or a 3. I'm gonna run them way up to about an 8, which to me is a little too high for what I'm gonna be fishing, but this is a great example of how to start, and then we can slowly back it to get further, farther, smoother casts and more distance, backing off the brakes a little bit and backing off the tension knob. So there's our first adjustment. Let's see how it goes. So actually, fantastic cast. I had no backlash whatsoever. Got pretty good distance. So that tells me, you know what? With a little more adjustments, I might be able to really get this guy under control, cast that much farther. And of course, the more water you can cover with each cast, the better the chances are of picking up a fish. So let's go ahead and do another adjustment and see if we can get this a little further. All right, so our rate of fall is somewhat slow. I think we can get a little bit better. So I'm gonna back it off a little more, have a little faster rate of fall. Yep. And then I'm gonna back my brakes off. Like I said, I was around an 8. I'm gonna drop down to about a 6 right now. I'm about a 7.5, 6.5, just below 7. Let's see what we can do. Helps if I turn my trolling motor down. But let's go ahead and get ourselves another cast. So again, nice distance. Didn't really have much runoff at all. That was because I kind of shot forward and it hit kind of hard, but still good control under the line. Be able to pull that slack up no problem. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try it one more time. If you're happy with an adjustment or you think you might have an adjustment where you like it, give it a couple casts without adjusting. And of course you get a couple different results, then you know, okay, I may need to compensate here or there. If you get 3 or 4 casts and you like all 3 or 4 casts, you got a good adjustment. Now, if you start to overrun at the beginning of your cast, that's in your tension. If you start to overrun towards the end or the deceleration as the lure is about to come to the water, that's in your brakes. So you're going to want to advance your tension or add more tension if you start to backlash or overrun at the beginning of the cast. And if that's good and you're only having issues towards the end of the cast where it's coming down, that's in your brakes. So let's give this another shot. Perfect. Didn't have to use any thumb, no thumb control. I got out there really far. I'm really liking that setup. I might actually loosen it up just a little bit, maybe by 1 or 2 increments to see if I can get even farther. Okay, so I'm going to back my tension off just a little bit and drop my brakes down 2 clicks. Let's see what that does for us. Oh man, I'm getting out there. I went even lighter. I had 0 overrun at the beginning and 0 overrun on the decel. So I might even lower my tension knob even more and lower my brakes even more. A little less tension knob. And now I'm going to drop my brakes below 5. So I had a slight little bit of runoff, just a hair towards the beginning of the cast. That's in my tension knob. So I'm going to give it just a hair bit more tension right now as I'm reeling back and ready for that second cast to see if I really like this latest adjustment. Like I said, I'm going to cast it a couple times from this point on to get a couple different ideas of, am I in that sweet spot? So we've got our tension knob backed off. I eased up my brakes a little bit. I'm actually going to ease them up a little more and get down to about 2. Let's see what that does for us. No thumb, no runoff, pretty good cast, very controlled. Now granted, one thing that you have to take into perspective is there's a lot of variables that are going to change your adjustments, such as rod and the actions of the rod, wind, you know, the direction the wind is blowing, a lot of different things, and line weight and lure weight are going to change the way your cast performs, and these are all things to take into perspective. So now I'm going to go ahead and back off one more time, 2 little adjustments. I'm down to 2, it's kind of where I was before. And then of course, maybe even take my tension knob just a little bit more back. Now this is where thumb control can come in. I had a little bit of runoff right at the beginning of my tension, so I'm going to tighten that back up. And as you can see, with thumb control, I used a lot of line. You can see a ton of line is already used up off the spool, and I got out there a lot farther. So with light brakes, light tension, and good thumb control, and thumb control is something that has to be learned a little over time, and that's something you'll have to play with in order to really truly get it down. But with these basic steps, the beginning of your cast starts with your tension knob, and the end of your cast, as it's starting to decelerate and fall into the water, is all in your brakes. Start playing with those, and once you understand them, you'll be able to set your lures up and fish a lot easier. All right, well, I just cut the lipless crankbait off. Let's go to another bait on the Spartacus II. And in this one, I think I'm gonna throw a spinnerbait. I'm gonna throw some kind of a trailer on there. This one's gonna be a little bit of a kind of a paddle tail shad colored bait here. So we got the spinnerbait tied on, got the trailer on there. Really looking forward to the action. Spinnerbait is also another fantastic search bait, whether it's cold water, middle of the summer, middle of the day, early morning. You can burn a spinnerbait, you can slow roll it, you can fish it shallow, you can fish it deep. One of the best ways is to fish it slow when things are slow and let it barely hit the bottom and bang that the jig head off the bottom and keep them blades turning. So we're gonna show you how to throw a spinnerbait. Now, a spinnerbait, this is about a 3/8 ounce spinnerbait, and it is quite a bit heavier, especially with that trailer system on it now, than that lipless. So now I lightened up my tension and my braking for the lipless. Tying on a different bait on the one rod is gonna create a completely different adjustment. Boom, there's my runoff right off the bat. Dude, this is what we're trying to avoid right here. All right, so now, like we saw with the lipless, tighten your tension knob up till you feel it get tight. We're gonna advance our brakes way up. I don't like to max them, you can max them, but I don't need to max them too much, but I got to turn way up just for this adjustment. Look at our rate of fall, like nothing. So we're gonna back off that tension knob a little bit, like I showed you before. That's pretty good, decent rate of fall. And now we got our brakes set a little high, so we're gonna give our first cast. No thumb, no runoff, but I think we could get quite a bit more length out of there. So I'm gonna bring this back in and start to lighten my adjustments. So, gonna lighten up on my tension. The beginning of the cast is always the tension. Gonna lighten that up a little bit, and I'm gonna bring my brakes way down because I felt I went down to about, I was at about a 7, I'm at about a 4 now. So let's give that a cast. Oh yeah, lot better length and control out there. I like that. Tension knob, I backed off a little too far because I started to get a little bit of runoff on that first one, but I'll be able to snug that up just a little bit. So snug up my tension just a hair. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. No thumb was used on that one. So let's say we want to flip this spinnerbait into some really close structures. And that's exactly what we're gonna be doing now in this situation, is flipping. Now with the adjustments that I showed you aren't quite perfect or ideal for flipping. We're gonna want a little bit more free spool to let that get out there more, and that's where your thumb is really gonna come in handy. So we're gonna go ahead and lighten our spool up just a hair. Now, we're gonna hold our bait and we're gonna use the rod to help us spring in. Now, so there's other ways to flip. This is how I do it. A lot of people will actually use like the length of the rod and flip it in, or the line and flip it in that way. I like to use the load up of the rod as opposed to the length of the rod and the line. I like the load up. So, lightened our tension knob up a little bit. I'm leaving my brakes right around 4, and we are going to let our thumbs be our brakes. Now, and I'm just gonna flip it in to some close structures, let it fall. And my thumb basically did all the work. And again, like I said, you want a light tension on that spool to allow it to be able to get out there, because we're not slingshotting it with the actual rod. This time, we're just flipping it in there where the whole concept of flipping comes in. And thumb action, like I said, it takes a little bit of practice, but thumb action is really what determines how that spool spins and the control of the line. All right, so we're gonna cut off this spinnerbait and tie on a square bill. All right, let's go ahead and get our setup on this one dialed in. Now, this one is a little bit more of a challenge. So with this square bill, it is quite a bit lighter than that lipless with a lot of heavy rattles to it. Lipless tends to be a little bit heavier, a lot of them do, than your square bills. And then that 3/8 of an ounce spinnerbait with a trailer was a lot heavier. But we're running 12-pound fluoro, so that's not bad. Our line's not real heavy. So we need to actually, again, we're gonna tighten our tension, same routine, but we won't have as much issue. We actually need more control because of the fact this is a lot lighter. And now I can start to feel a little bit of a breeze picking up, which will also, like I said, wind can come in and change the outcome of your adjustments or change your adjustments. So rate of fall, it's a little tight. We're gonna lower that up. Give ourselves a decent rate of fall. Our brakes are around 6 or 7. Let's give it our first cast. And not bad with a decent length, okay? Might be able to get a little bit more out of that. All right, so went ahead. I like the way that casts, but I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit, go 2 clicks on my brakes. And this one, like I said, I'm gonna go in smaller increments because this one is lighter, a little bit of a breeze. So dramatic increments are gonna give you dramatic results on something so light. Still looking good. I think I can get a little more. I'm down to a 6. I'm probably gonna drop it down to a 4 on my brakes. I don't know that I'm gonna mess with my tension much. I might go just a little bit lighter and see if I can't dial that in a little more. And with this square bill, you know, I'm throwing it out here and I'm banging it off the trees, letting it drag over some things and really letting it do its work and making noise and getting fish out of the structure. That casts pretty good. I like that adjustment. I think I might go a little lighter. Now, one thing to take into perspective and to understand with a bait caster, you can get your reel dialed in perfect for that certain condition. Now, throughout the entire trip, using one reel or one lure throughout the entire day, casting, you're actually ripping line and ripping, you know, throwing it out there and that line's coming off that spool's spinning very fast, and that tension knob is holding force against that spool. After every cast, every time that thing loads up, it's actually slowly backing that tension knob off with every cast, just very minor. So you'll find yourself throughout the day, every now and then, even after it's dialed in perfect, it came out of adjustment slightly. That's just a small adjustment back on the tension knob. And that's with any brand of reel you're ever gonna use. With every cast, you're slowly changing that adjustment on that tension knob. Not very dramatic, but after 150 casts, you might notice you're starting to get a little more runoff at the beginning, and that's because you're slowly pushing that tension knob back off of its tension. Well guys, I hope this video helped you in this setup and adjustment of pretty much any bait caster there is out there, especially this Spartacus II right here from KastKing. Guys, check them out. They're available right now on Amazon.com and KastKing.com. And I'll see you right here on YouTube for your next KastKing video.